Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Today I have made a track guide for Fia Manufacturers Round 3 of the official season. It's Fuji in Group 3 cars, so yeah, I'm driving the Peugeot RCZ Group 3 and I think I got a very good lap in, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Something I forgot to say in other videos is what brake balance I was using. So yeah, I'm using neutral brake bias. On this lap I really nailed the final corner, so that's where most of the time I gained came from. There is still time in this lap, but not a lot, and I don't think I'll try to improve it. So yeah, I hope you guys will go faster because of this guide, and I also hope you guys enjoy it. So yeah, let's get into the guide. So, starting off the lap, you want to make sure you get a good exit out of the final corner by going wider, and yeah, make sure you get good traction. Going into turn 1, you want to be looking for the curb on the left side of the track as your first brake marker. You have to basically guess your distance to it, because it isn't a very easy marker, but there aren't any other markers, so unfortunately this is the best one. As you're braking in a straight line, make sure to not get on the curb on the left, because it makes your braking performance a lot worse. Now turning in, you want to aim for the apex and try to get your right hand tires onto the green part, which I marked here. Try not to get your left hand tires on any curb, because then you don't get the extra rotation that you got from the green part. Now try to be careful on the throttle at the exit here, because it can be very tricky. For turn 2, the brake marker will either be the 50-meter mark or this orange marker on the right. You want to be careful with how far on the curb you go on the right, because it can really throw the car off if you tap the grass, or if you turn in and the car responds differently to what you're used to, so try to be careful with that. Now for the turning in, it is very easy to misjudge here and turn in too late and miss the apex, but also to turn in too early, so be careful with that, get a good line in. As you ease off the brakes, you do that very quickly. For the apex, make sure to get your left hand tires over the red and white part of the curb, which I might have marked here, but don't get your right hand tires over it, because then you have a chance of a penalty, or it is just in general very slow. When you can, now apply throttle very aggressively, as I do here, so you get a good exit. For the exit, make sure you don't go over this curb too much, because it's very tricky for the car and it's also slower. The best thing is to get your left wheels on the green part as far as possible, as long as they just don't hit the red part. Now turn left as soon as possible to avoid getting a penalty, and then turn right as soon as possible once you are safe of getting a penalty. If you do this correctly, you'll be just a bit to the left of the edge of the track. Now ease off the throttle when you start seeing this path on the right side of the track, and try to hit the first apex, which is a bit later. Keep controlling your throttle input and start aiming for the second path on the right. This will be your apex this time, and Also a reference for when you should start going through throttle, which is right after it. Now for turn 4, you really need to get this braking zone right. Ideally you want to be as far over to the right as possible, of course, because you then get can get good braking performance, but because you gain a lot of time by getting on the throttle earlier out of the previous corner, it's actually faster to stay a bit more to the left. The brake marker here will be the 50 meter board right ahead, and you want to be braking quite a bit before it, as I do here. Because I'm not completely at the right side of the track, I'll be braking diagonally, so I can still get a better angle for this left-hander by getting further over to the right. It's important to keep good control of your car here during braking, because you are braking whilst turning in, and this can be very unstable. For the apex here, there are multiple ways to hit it, but I think the fastest is to get your left tires a little bit on the green part, not a whole lot, but at least a bit more than what I do here. So you get the good rotation again from the curb, and you can get a good exit because you don't turn in too early. For this exit, the throttle application is very important, because oversteer and understeer are very easy to get here. If you do it correctly, you'll be at the edge of the red and white curb on the right with your right hand tires. I lost a bit of time here because I didn't hit the apex right and I didn't get on the throttle correctly. So yeah, you can see my ghost gains a bit of me here, but it's okay, it was still not too bad. Now on this little straight there are two corners, and you just need to hit the apexes of them both, because it will gain you like a few hundreds. So yeah, that's an easy gain if you stay far over to the right. For this hairpin, your brake marker will be the big sign going over the track. You want to be braking right when you are past it, and you need to brake in as straight of a line as possible. And similar for turn 1, don't brake on the curb on the left, as it will affect your braking performance. The most important part of this corner is the turning in, as you really need to get the best rotation possible. So make sure you turn in such a way that the car stays balanced and gets good rotation. Now get off the brakes completely just before you hit the apex. Ideally you want to be going over this apex completely, so with your right hand tires on the green part, but with your left hand tires not in the curb at all. This will give you the best time possible for the left hander coming up with good rotation, as I got here. It doesn't really matter and isn't that big of a deal, so I do this very good. And for the left part, for the left hand kink here, when you have got good traction from the previous corner, you need to start turning left, and right after you have started turning, you shift up to second, and at the same time go to about 25% throttle. When you reach the apex, go off throttle completely so you can get enough rotation whilst not braking whatsoever. You need to hit this apex curb perfectly, because it could lose you quite a lot of time on the exit if you mess it up here. To hit it perfectly, you need to get your left hand tires exactly in the middle of the curb, where it gives you the most rotation. Once you have hit the apex, start applying throttle and get to full throttle as soon as you can without spinning. As you are accelerating, make sure you go over this next curb, but you need to avoid the bollard at all costs, because it loses you quite a lot of time, so just avoid the bollard. For this next right hander, you need to get to the left side of the track, but it's very important to not hit the curb on the left, because it will just grab your car and send it to the shadow realm, so be careful with the curb on the left here. I use as a marker for my turning in point and my braking point the line here I marked on the left. I first get off the throttle slowly, and once I got on the throttle, off the throttle completely, I start using a bit of braking whilst turning in, like 25%. For the when I hit the apex, you need to be sure to get on the green part with your right hand tires. Just don't go on the grass or hit the bollard, of course. But yeah, also don't hit the red and white curb with your left hand tires, just like all other corners almost. For this exit here, you need to make sure you get good traction, of course. But I here am a bit too hesitant with the throttle, so I lose a bit of time, unfortunately. But it's okay. On this exit there is this curb here. You can either go over the green part or on the red and white part only. There's two ways to do it. But if you go over the green part, if you go too far over it, you won't be able to make a sharp line for the next corner. So it's a lot safer if you go on the red and white curb only. Here the Ghost does it correctly though, because it doesn't go too far over on the green part, so it gets the so it can use the whole track and still get a good line for the next corner. And the sharper line is the better line for this next corner, so that's why you want to do that in a way that you can still make that sharper line. For the left-hander here, you need some very good throttle and brake control, because it's a very hard corner. I start going off throttle when I get to the end of the curb on the left. I try to not brake for as long as possible, because yeah, that gains of course more time. And once I have to start braking, I start using 25 to 50% braking, and all whilst turning in, of course. As you can see, I take that very sharp line, because the track here is not only up and downhill, but the reason I do it is because in some corners, and especially in the last sector, the corners also cambered a little bit, which makes the inside quite a bit better than the outside, when maybe if it was like perfectly flat, it wouldn't be that much of a difference as it is now. So yeah, that's why I take a sharper line. As I am turning in here, I'm aiming for the green part of the curb again, but for this corner it doesn't really matter how far you get over it. It's maybe slightly fast, but it doesn't matter as much as for other corners. When you hit the apex, slowly start applying throttle, because the traction here is very tricky, especially once you're on the curb on the exit, which is extremely slippery. Speaking about the curb, you can get as far over it as possible without losing your time. Just don't go off track, because you'll get a penalty in dirty tires. So yeah, at this curb you can gain quite a lot of time. So as we start turning in here, you need to be quite far over to the right side of the track, just like I am here. That's basically perfect. Start turning in slowly, as I do as well, and once you get a bit further into the corner, you start easing off the throttle. I ease off the throttle quite a bit faster here than on the previous two corners, because I need to start braking very soon as well. Also, I don't really have a reference point here, so yeah, need to be doing it a bit by feeling. But as I am braking now for this corner, You are basically just like last corner, braking whilst turning in, controlling your inputs very precisely, and you need to start aiming for this apex. Once you are done braking, start coasting, and you need to get on the throttle very early before the apex, because otherwise you lose a lot of time. Your apex will be this white line at the end of the green curb, and after you hit that you can start accelerating more, as long as you keep good traction. Make sure on the exit to not go onto the green astroturf, as that will hurt your exit speed. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this track guide. I'll now let the whole lap play out without any commentary. And subscribe!